All right. Hi, Danielle.
Hi.
All right. I am so excited. Sorry, I can't keep it in. Like I've been waiting for this interview for like so long. Okay, everyone who's tuning in, this is Danielle. Sorry, I'm not even like saying your last name. I'm just like the Danielle, right? Danielle Lindy
This is
or
me.
Danielle Francis, which Danielle Francis, right? Because you've got multiple names, but Danielle Francis, she is a gentle sleep coach. So for all you mamas having sleep deprivation problems, this is Danielle. And I'm so excited because I'm one of those sleep deprived mamas.
Oh, I know. I
So
have been
please
there.
tell us about you. How did you get to be doing this awesome, awesome stuff that you're doing?
It's a funny story. Well, not really funny, but yeah, I'm here. So I've been working with families for over 13 years, in many different capacities, supporting parents one-on-one, antenatally, in group settings, facilitating parenting programs. And the number one issue that I'm also a mum, so I've been there. And the number one issue that always comes up is sleep, always, all the time. And I thought, I need more information on this. I need to be able to help the parents that I am speaking to, and I need help myself. So I went and trained in gentle sleep coaching. And the reason I trained in gentle sleep coaching is because I firmly believe in connection and responsiveness. And this was definitely the route I wanted to take. So it has been amazing. It's not easy. It's hard, but I love it. I just love working with mums. I absolutely love it.
Oh, it's just like I can feel the love pouring off of you. And I was like, oh man, I feel like I've been sleep deprived for 6 years, right? Since my first child
I
was
know.
born. That's really like each time you think one is through a phase, then you have another baby, and then they go through a phase. Oh, and then there comes another baby, and then someone's having nightmares. It's like feels like it's nonstop.
And that is the thing with sleep. It's not linear. It doesn't just gradually get better with age. It goes up and down and round and round. It really is a roller coaster journey. It really is.
And I can imagine that it has everything to do with like our expectations, right? Like we think like we're so used to like, okay, we work on something or someone grows and we'll see gradual, like what you said, linear
Yep.
change. Like that's
Yep.
totally, you just like hit the nail on the head. I was like, I totally want
Yep.
that. I was like, yep, I thought as my kids got older, they would sleep better, but that's not happening.
Why are you not sleeping? You have just turned one, you have just turned two, you have just turned five, and you're still having issues with sleep. I know it is. I think expectations, having realistic expectations is almost a hard pill to swallow. Like,
Yep.
really? Is this normal? Yeah, yeah, it is normal. Sorry.
All right. So you get moms coming to you when they're sleep deprived, right? I can
Yeah,
imagine. Do,
yeah.
do you have
So
moms coming to you preemptively, or is it mostly when they're like, oh man, I can't take this anymore?
So I do sleep workshops
Yeah.
where I have expectant parents coming and they're the type of parent they want to know all the information off the bat, and this is why they come to the likes of
Yeah.
workshops. But my one-to-one support is for families who are just really struggling with sleep, or they are struggling with sleep, but they're trying different things, or they're trying all the things and nothing's working. So they just want some clear guidance. They're completely overwhelmed with conflicting information from Google in all the hours of the night, Googling, scrolling, trying to get answers. And so they just reach out for support.
Yeah. So awesome. And okay, if you're like, all right, you come to you, what are typical results that you see after someone's working with you? I'm gonna go right in for this. I was like, what am I gonna get out of it?
So what am I getting at?
Hey, I'm
Well,
I'm personal interest here, right? Like I've got a 1 year old. Oh, I lost you
so
from.
depending on the level of depending on the level of support
Yeah.
that you want. Some parents come with multiple issues,
Yeah.
so their sleep issue is really difficult. But ultimately, we will improve sleep, and we're doing it in a responsive way. We're promoting emotional well-being for parents. We're promoting emotional well-being for our babies and children, and we can absolutely improve sleep that way.
Yeah.
And you're also being supported. Any information that I give families is evidence-based, you know. So yeah, you're getting that support, and you'll always come away feeling empowered to deal with this situation. You'll be fully informed. This is a clear plan of what I need to do to get me from A to B, and this is how I'm going to get there. It may not happen overnight. It may not happen in the first week or two, or depending on the situation is, but you will get there. We just need to think of it in stages.
I'm writing questions down right now because I'm like, so many things I want to ask. All right. So let's go back a little bit. And you mentioned, so you introduced, right, the concept of gentle coaching, gentle sleep coaching, but also responsiveness. Can you give me a couple of examples of what that looks like, right? Like I haven't, right, it's very aligned. We've talked about this. We're very aligned on the way we approach things with kids.
Yeah.
But for people who may not know, what does that look like?
Well, one of the things, personally, I will never recommend to a family to try any form of cry it out or methods that entail you leaving your baby to cry to self-soothe. And this self-soothe there's a reason for that. I will never promote any type of non-responsive technique, because going by research that's not how our babies learn. Our babies need repeated experience of their needs being met and their emotions being regulated by their primary caregiver, and that's through co-regulation. And there's so much information out there. It seems to be a cultural norm that our babies are like almost little robots, that we feed them, we change them, we wind them, and they can be put down and sleep. And it's very frustrating as a new parent that if you try all these things and our little one is still having difficulty sleeping or having difficulty being put down, but that's because our babies are born to want to be close to us. They need to be close to us to help them grow. So I done training a long time ago on attachment theory and why meeting our baby's needs. Every person, their emotional regulatory system is formed from early childhood experiences, and this includes sleep. Our parenting doesn't stop in the day. It happens overnight too. You know, we meet our babies and children's needs all day long, and the cultural norm seems to be that it kind of stops when they go asleep and they should be on their own all night long.
Which when you explain it like that, it just makes no sense, right? You're like, oh, you know what, half the day, and then you're on your own, baby cakes. Like,
I know.
I was sitting here listening to you talk, and I was getting goosebumps because I was like, yes, I knew we were aligned, but I'm just loving the reflection of this, because this is so what I reach as well. It's like the walking away from our kids, you know, letting them cry. I was like, I have to say, I've heard a lot of my friends and people I know talking about sleep training, and I never really felt like I knew what I was talking about in that field, and I only kind of followed my own gut, like instincts, even though it meant being seriously sleep deprived. But my kids have all like slept with me, and I literally yesterday I was having a chat with a friend on Facebook, and he was telling me that they were going to start their baby on with sleep training, and I was like, oh. You know, and I was just curious. And he's like, yeah, he's not sleeping normally in our room, and he's 4.5 months. So we think he's ready to start sleeping in his own room. And I kind of got really sad, like reading this. I like really got sad. And I was like, yeah, I'm not a sleep expert. I'm not someone who can talk with. I was like, oh, you know, I can't really tell you much about that, except that all my kids have slept with us. Like I've never sleep trained, right? With self-soothing, the same thing. I'm exactly like this. Like if our kids cry, it's because they have no other way of communicating. Crying is communication, right? Like my specialty is communication. Like they're talking to us, they're telling us something is not okay. And there's nothing more beautiful for me than when I pick up my baby, she's crying and she wakes up several times, right? And that immediately you get this, like, you can physically see them, like,
The relief.
the
Yeah.
relief, the relaxing. And I have to tell you that even my boys, when now they're getting more used to dad, because dad's going in more in the night with the older ones.
Woohoo.
But they used to physically, like when they were totally worked up and in the middle of a nightmare, just turning to me and smelling me, it would completely relax them, like a physiological reaction
Oh,
to being close. And I
that's
was like,
beautiful.
but that's so powerful, right? And I was
It
like,
is.
oh, if I can soothe, right?
And it is so beautiful, but it doesn't mean it's easy. It is
Oh.
still hard. It's
Mhm.
so difficult. And and I fully appreciate that. I have been there when, and I totally understand why parents sleep train, because they hear that, they hear all this information that it's basically going to solve all your problems. And if you don't know why we choose not to do it, if you
Yeah.
don't know about
Yeah.
attachment theory and emotional well-being and infant mental health, you why would you not do it? Because your friend Susie down the street has done it and her baby's sleeping all night. And but yeah, that's why I don't do it. I don't blame parents for doing it, and
Mm.
I would never judge a parent for doing it, because you need to do what's right for you.
Yeah.
But I feel my role as a gentle sleep coach is to provide information so the parents can make fully informed
Yeah.
decisions.
That is it, right? That is so it, because exactly what you were saying, like we see what's around us. And because I worked as a trainer and I did intercultural communication. So
Mhm.
I didn't look at it from the way you're looking at, like from attachment theory and infant,
Yep.
like infant attachment, well-being. But I looked at it more from the perspective, ours is not the only culture out there, right? Like the
Hmm.
intercultural communication, you learn a lot that they do things differently in different cultures. And
Yeah,
so what you were saying and the way I'm coming from, both have the same thing, and it's creating awareness that there's another option.
absolutely. There is another way. And that's why I feel so passionate about it, because I know parents who have sleep trained and they are crying at the other side of the door, like in pain because their baby's crying, but they feel that they have to do this because they are being told repeatedly by healthcare professionals too that you need to sleep train. They should be sleeping all night. They should be doing this, and therefore you're following. You're doing it because you feel you need to, but there are absolutely other ways
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I know, right? And so that's it. That's the beautiful thing, right? That there are people like you out there that are just the fulfilling that educational role, right? Like that you were
Yeah.
saying, like sharing. And guess what? When those people go out and they encounter friends who are struggling with, they'll be like, oh, did you know? Because if something works
Yep.
for them, they're gonna,
Yep.
everyone can make their own choices, obviously. And when you find something that works for you, like I don't know about you, but I tell everyone about it. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I'm very careful because in my role as well, like I don't like to come across like I'm telling people what to do.
No,
So just
absolutely not.
sharing what
No.
works for me and what
Yeah.
works for my clients, right? So I'm also
Yeah.
like a little bit like everyone's got to make their own choices in this. And I will also I'll never tell people like to discipline their children, right? Like
Yeah.
I will like one of my standpoints is I won't tell people to use timeouts,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? If their child wants to take some space and chooses to do that and knows that it's an option in a non-punitive way, fine. But
Yeah.
I will never, kind of condone discipline in the traditional sense. So I
Yeah.
love that. I just love how aligned we are. Okay. So tips. I got to get practical with you. You knew this was coming. You knew this was coming because I was like, oh, okay. But before I get to tips, this is why I wrote it down, because I knew I was just going to get so excited and go off on different tangents with you. So I hope this is making sense for everyone that's watching it, because I think I'm letting my own personal situation be like, oh, I need to know more. I need to know more.
Tell me everything.
No, you're just gonna have to send me the link for your next workshop. Are you doing your workshops in person again, or are they also online?
Workshops are online.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I get you the next dates of your workshop, and they're going to be posted underneath this video so that anyone who's watching is like, oh man, that's me. I'm a sleep deprived parent and I want to be gentle. I don't want to put, I don't want to walk away and have this heart-wrenching crying behind me all the time.
And I do want to say that for any parent who has sleep trained, don't feel bad, because we can only do our best with the information we have at the time.
Absolutely.
And I don't want any information that I share with my families on social media via one-to-one support to ever put any more stress on families than that they're already under. Like I said, we can only do the best with the information we have at the time. And it doesn't mean that that relationship's ruined or that you're harming your baby. There's other ways that we can help towards sleep, but I just want to say that because there definitely are families. I have worked with families who have sleep trained in the past and found out more information about the more gentle way, and they feel awful about it, but don't, because we can only do our best.
Yeah, and you know what? We're fantastic at that guilty thing, right? We'll always find something to feel guilty about, something that we haven't done well enough. And I'm so on board with this as well, right? So my psychology background, I actually stopped going forward in psychology to become like an actual, this is why my disclaimer always when I'm working with my clients, I was like, we can talk about everything, but just so you know, I'm not a psychologist. I never went further in it because a lot of psychology is so rooted in the past. Right. And I felt like dwelling in the past and trying to figure out the why and hanging there was not helping people with moving forward. And I really wanted to support also moving forward. And from everything I've read and also learned about parenting, whenever you start, that's what counts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. It can even be when you have an adult kid.
Yes.
All right. You were going to say something and I interrupted you. Go.
No, I'm anyone that follows me on social media. I'm very real in the kind of parenting style that I have, and I am extremely passionate. Yes, in gentle parenting, gentle sleep coaching, but extremely passionate about normalizing good enough parenting. We are going to have rubbish days, and that is okay. It's okay to say that. There is no such thing as the perfect parent, and trying to live up to that standard is exhausting, and you're never going to be the perfect parent. You'll have good days and you'll have bad days. It's important to normalize good enough parenting.
Yeah, I agree. I literally had someone ask me this the other day because she was also struggling with her toddler, and she was like, do you keep it together all the time? I was like, no. I was like, no. I was like, I've learned lots of tools so that I can recover better, that I can, get off my pedestal and say, I'm sorry and show my kids the right example. I was like, but I still have days when I yell. I still have days when I haven't taken good care of myself and I'm so sleep deprived that I just like can't function. And so that I just cannot be the best version of myself. So I love that, like the normalizing the good enough parent. So whoever's watching that, I hope take this one with you. Take that one.
If anything, take this.
Right. Okay. I want to go back a little bit. You mentioned parents who they come to you with sleep problems and they have a little bit more challenging situations. And I was wondering, can you give you made me really curious. I was like, can you give me an example of one of these difficult situations?
So it could be like multiple sleep issues, like they are really having difficulty with napping, or they're having difficulty because it's taking them so long to go asleep at night, or when they do go asleep, they're waking up soon after falling asleep, or they're waking up at 2 a.m. for 2 hours and ready for a party, and they may be up early morning. Like there's so many different issues, and the parents that come to me, there is similarities in the issues that they are having, but those are really difficult situations that if you haven't, like a recent client I had, her little one wasn't napping unless she had to bring him out in the car. And even at nighttime sleep, getting him to sleep, the only way she could get him asleep was out in the car, and she felt really bad about it because this is what she has to do even in the middle of the night. But when we're exhausted, we will do the quickest thing that gets our babies to sleep. I've done it, you know, and we're able to put in some things in place, and he started sleeping, falling asleep in the cot. You know, these are not, they can be fixed. You know, we can make these things better, and we just have to start somewhere, I suppose.
Okay, so speaking of that, now we're coming back to my tips. I was like, okay, difficult situation, kid not sleeping unless they're in a, you know, particular context, right? Like I totally recognize this. My eldest, he would only fall asleep like on me, like nowhere else, only on me. And so I literally could not move for like days at a time. Finally, my mom helped me get like a carrying thing so I could carry him, so I could at least have my hands free. But like, I would lay him down and he would ping, be like awake, like even though he was like deep away in la la land. So I can imagine there are more parents out there who are struggling with exactly these things, right? That you have to walk around the block for 20 minutes in the stroller to get your kid to fall asleep, or that they're falling asleep, you know, like you said, in the car, or that they won't sleep unless, I don't know, they have their pacifier. So where would you start? Like, what is a tip that you would give, like any parent who is in general dealing with sleep issues? And I know everyone's got a whole bunch of different things, right? What you got?
Where do you start?
Where do I start?
Well, for contact napping, first thing I will ask parents, is this really an issue for you? You know, do you feel that other people think it's an issue for you? Or, you know, because it's not a problem unless it's a problem for you. You know, if it works okay for you and you really enjoy it, then go with it. You know, you don't have to listen to everybody else, but say it is a problem for you. You need to know your little one's overall sleep needs for their age. Now, there's multiple charts out there and all these different things that tells you what your baby on average should be sleeping in a 24-hour period. And what happens with that, I find with the clients that I work with, if they have seen these kind of charts before, if their child is not sleeping, say a 13-month-old on average should be sleeping between 11 and 14 hours total sleep in a 24-hour period, okay, on average. And if that baby I'm jolly that time, if that baby isn't sleeping 14 hours, then it's a problem. They may only be sleeping the 11 hours, but our expectations is that they should be sleeping more. So I would want to be figuring out what is that child's sleep needs, you know, and figure out if there's anything we can do in terms of routine and sleep during the day. Before the likes of contact napping, it's gradual, okay? So we want to help layer up multi-sensory sleep cues for your baby, and this would be rocking and patting your baby as you're holding them to sleep. And if you do this, these are multi-sensory sleep cues. And if you do these over a period of time, you may still have a pacifier or dummy. Then over time, you can take one of these away, but still have these other multi-sensory sleep cues. So in theory, for a contact napper, I would try probably laying down with baby first. Okay, and I would probably recommend this the first nap of the day. First nap of the day always seems to be the easiest nap to get. And that way, if it doesn't go well, which it probably won't the first few times anyway, you still have the rest of the day to kind of get sleep back on track. Yeah. And you would just start by in stages, laying baby beside you, but continue to pat and shush. Instead of laying, you know, on top of you, you're still very much there. And then gradually over time, if baby gets used to that, you're going to start like slowly moving away gently, you know, and still staying there, but you're further away from baby so that they're not actually on you. You may still have a hand on them, but you're further away, and you just have to do it in stages. Does this take longer? Yeah, it does, but it's very gentle. and our little ones can learn that you're still there. And then once you get to the stage where that's going well, you start to do ninja rolls away. And little one is there. And once they're okay with that, going down and laying on their own,
Yeah.
you may then be able to do this in the cot in their own sleep space. But everything is done in stages, and that wouldn't be the same technique I would use for every contact number, because every child is completely unique. And this is why I take a holistic approach, because it depends on your child's personality too. You know, if your child's a lot more sensitive, you might need to try something different, or you might need to just completely leave it for the time being if there's big changes involved or developmental leaps. You need to find the right time to do it. But anything, I would suggest trying at the first nap of the day. Seems to go a bit better. Definitely.
I get so much gold out of this, right? Like literally, I think you're like, yes, 13-month-old. And guess what? That's exactly what I have as a 13-month-old. I was like, ooh, and contact sleeper. Okay, duly noted. Dude, I took notes. I took really good notes. No, seriously though, to summarize, like I hear so many solid things there. Like, look at your child's individual needs. This is, by the way, the same approach I take with kids of any age. So this, I love that you're starting from, like, because what we're doing is we're also training ourselves. We're not just training the kids, we're training ourselves, right? We get in these certain patterns, and if you have other kids, you kind of like drag the other ones along with, we lose sight of their individual needs. So treating them as an individual, looking at our own expectations, right? That you said, like,
100%.
Is it that I expected of myself, or is it really that I'm worried what other people will think of me, right? That was one thing that I took out of this as well. The multi-sensory cues. Oh, that was beautiful. I never put a name to that one, but it makes so much sense.
And it's so natural. You would naturally do those things. You know, the patting and the shushing and the rocking.
Yeah. But I don't think, like, I've done all of those. Exactly what you said. Like, I did stuff, right? Like I said, but I never did it with any like conscious intention. Okay, this is what I'm doing. And looking at, like, my little research nerd goes on, I was like, ooh, and then I'm gonna track how many times it works. And then I'm gonna, like, okay, after 2 days, then I'm gonna take the next step. And, like, you know, like, I'm like, how do you track this? Right? Like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, how do you track it? Like, put a number on it. But it's beautiful because I realized that indeed, this is kind of what happened with my oldest, who was a contact sleeper. He eventually did start rolling into his own co-sleeping, like, cot, being fine for longer periods on his own. We went through a phase where he hated and literally, like, screamed bloody murder, like, putting him in a regular cot, like, and we figured out he just hated being in prison. We put him in a regular, like, couch bed that was like just up in there, and he started sleeping. But often, like, it was hours of putting him to sleep, literally hours. And then we kind of, like, it was really hard for us because we had this expectation as parents, like, okay, my kid should fall asleep within this amount of time. And then we kind of came to the conclusion, we have a kid with more energy. So he just has less sleep needs. And when he sleeps deep and he sleeps well. And then he went through a phase where he woke up with nightmares and stuff. So it's, I totally get now with hindsight, right, that I was kind of going through that, but it's like haphazard, kind of randomly trying things all over the place. And I was like, ooh, I gotta tell my husband he's got to get out of habitually letting our daughter fall asleep she falls asleep in the carrier with him, because our other boys need to be read to fall asleep. I was like, but if we all laid down together and started like that,
how lovely would that be too?
And I just, but the consciousness of it, like the looking at my child, looking at what they need, and taking things one step at a time. And if it's not working, go back. This is exactly what I'm taking out of it. Like, literally, and starting with the first nap of the day, like all those things, I was like, oh, I can't wait to get out here and, like, try it, like, right now.
I know. And these things take practice. They, you know, any type of techniques to help improve sleep rarely work the first time round. If they do, I will be as shocked as what the parent will be. You know, it takes practice, and we need to allow our little ones to adjust to any kind of change. It just takes time.
We're like, seriously, like, together we could, like, span the whole childhood, because I was like, exactly this, like, that if you don't practice, right, and you don't tune into your kid, then it doesn't work. And exactly that, the first time, knowing the first time it's probably going to fail, and I'm probably going to feel awkward, and I'm going to probably feel like, oh, like super
It's
frustrated with it. And the art of just getting back in the arena and doing it again, and like not giving
yeah,
up.
just taking away any kind of expectation, I think takes a lot of pressure off parents, I don't actually have to worry about this, this will get better. It absolutely will. And like with your oldest, who you didn't do any form of sleep training with, he was a contact napper and he got to the stage where he just rolled over, so parents can absolutely go through without doing anything and sleep will get better. Sleep does get better and children will want to get into their own sleep space at some stage when they're ready. But if you find something is a problem for you and it's starting to impact your mental health too, because it's quite easy to feel touched out as well. And that's okay to say that. It's okay to feel touched out. You get to a stage, okay, I have decided, I know for my mental well-being, to make me a better parent, I want to move away from this. And that's the reason you want to do it, not because someone else thinks you shouldn't be holding your baby to sleep or whatever the case may be.
Well, I can give you a beautiful, very concrete example of exactly this. So my second son was born when my oldest was 2 years and 2 months old, and he was still breastfeeding at the time, but down to 1 feeding a day. But then the baby came along, and all of a sudden he wanted to be drinking more. So I was tandem feeding them at times.
Wow.
And I got to the point, I think it was going on a lot longer, but when my oldest was about 3.5, I was starting to get so overtouched that I was getting irritated with my kids, and I was wanting to push them away because I was sleeping with them, I was nursing them both, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I got to the point where I was like, you know what, this is not working. And so I at 4, right? Like at 4, my oldest he got this like last cut and said, the last time that you were going to get breastfed. And I was like, because if I don't stop it, I was like, this is not making me the best version of me.
Yeah. And I
So
totally
that's not a
understand
sleep thing,
that.
but it's like
It's
that's
a
a concrete
yeah,
example, right?
absolutely.
Exactly. That's always that balance. I think it's what we expect of ourselves. It's what we think everyone else around us, and also what society kind of portrays as normal as well. Like that babies should be sleeping through the night, right? Like, my sister-in-law, I love her dearly. And I hear from my mother that, oh, well, they sleep through the night, right? That you get compared to your own, like when your parents compare you to how the others are sleeping. And it's like, oh, am I doing something wrong? Like, even though I feel like it's working for my family, I notice that even then those doubts come in. And I'm quite well self-educated in this.
I know, but you can't even compare siblings in their personality, let alone sleep. You just can't, because they're two very individual people, little tiny people with their own personalities. So you can't. We do it. We do it. We do compare. Oh, if your friend has a baby rough age, they're doing such and such, your baby isn't, or your baby's doing such and such, their baby. And we do get into that way of comparing, and it's difficult, but we need to remember that our baby is their own person. Like, I've also worked with families who just absolutely will not co-sleep. And I fully appreciate that, because I didn't enjoy co-sleeping with my babies. I couldn't sleep. Could not sleep with them in the bed. And that's okay too. Doesn't mean I'm not a responsive parent, because I probably spent more time in their room with them. It probably would have been better had I co-slept, but you just got to do what works for you. And the expectations of others is just that. It's their expectations. It's not on you.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, I feel like we've covered so many things. Like it's also like societal expectations, self-expectation, multiple sleep issues, also so many good tips, and also just the approach that you're taking with the gentle, responsive parenting and looking at our kids. I think for me also, when they parts that again aligns, right? I think I've used the word alignment like 20 times in this talk.
I feel it.
But that we see them as their own person, as their own separate person that has their place in the household, and we treat them kind of accordingly. Like we wouldn't tell our partner, you know, like, oh, you're not sleeping through the night, you need to go sleep in a different bed.
And this is exactly it. If your friend or your partner came to you crying and upset during the day or in the middle of the night, you wouldn't just say, you're okay, just go to sleep. You know, it's like you just would not do that. You wouldn't do it. So why do we feel that, or why are we told that we should be doing that with our babies? You're setting up bad habits. If your baby calls you and you go to them every time, they are gonna recognize that you're coming to them every time. Good. I want them to recognize that I'm coming. I am their safe space.
Yeah.
You know, that's who I am. That is what my role is as their mother, their parent.
Yeah.
You know, I want him to know. So like my little man, he's 3, and some nights he'll just call me in. Some nights it's to fix his blanket. Some nights it's to do a pee. And some nights he says he wants hugs and kisses. And he gets whatever he needs, because when he feels safe and calm, he can happily go back asleep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that responsiveness. And this is, I really was like, oh, I love this. The responsiveness, because one of our kids' just fundamental needs, and that's going to set them up for the rest of their life, is that safety, right? That knowing that their most special people in the whole world, the ones that are actually responsible literally for their physical survival in this world, right? Like if you go back to the biological caveman sort of era, if the parents weren't there, the kids would die, right? So it makes sense that when they're looking for that sense of safety, that the parents are the ones that they go to, that they want us. I mean, my kids still wake up in the middle of the night, and sometimes all it takes is like a stroke across the face to know that someone is there for you. And I really have this, and I'm sure you have this too, this deep knowing that if I continue to respond to their needs, that's going to give them that deep rooted safety and calm and ability to build like a solid base to become like this emotionally stable human being.
That's how our children learn to regulate their own emotions, because we have been repeatedly helping them calm down and when their emotions are heightened. And that's called co-regulation. That's how our little ones learn. And it's funny you saying about the safety and going back, like if cavemen, and this is how I explain newborn sleep, and especially in those early months, you know, our babies wake, it's a safety feature. They wake to make sure they're still safe, and they want to be close to you, because if they aren't, they'll be eaten by a wolf or something, you know. That's how they feel, that, you know, because they're born babies. And generally that's how it goes into the early years.
Oh, I feel like we could keep talking about this stuff for hours.
I know.
But for the do it themselfers at home, the people who are like, oh man, I love this topic. Can you tell me a resource or something you would recommend, like where parents could start reading about it, or like where they can find you or your blogs or whatever, right? Where can parents start if they want to know more about this?
Well, I have a Facebook group, and we have a bit of fun in it too, because you have to laugh at it. You have to laugh. It's hard, but we still have to enjoy motherhood. But I have a Facebook group called Gentle Sleep and Parenting Support for Mums.
Nice.
And it's a great wee group, and I generally put lots of tips in there. We have weekly Q&A, so if you have something on your mind, just pop the question into the group, and I'll always come back with tips and stuff. But anyone that's interested in learning more about connection and attachment theory, the first person who I'd done training through, it's a Scottish researcher called Suzanne Sidek, incredible person who talks a lot about baby's need for connection, and she has a guide called The Connected Baby. it was the reason why I get into attachment theory with babies, was this resource before I even had my children. So anyone who's interested in learning more about that and emotional well-being, infant mental health, I would suggest check out Suzanne Sadek.
Nice. All right. So fantastic. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and round off there. I think that we've covered so much. We've got resources, we've got tips in here. And I'm just like so excited. I'm like, we got to talk again because we talked about it. Like,
we could go on all night.
Yeah, and you have a 3-year-old, I have a 1-year-old. I'm like, we need to talk again.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Danielle, for coming in and jumping on this interview. I'm really excited to share it with everyone like as soon as possible, so we can just all as parents stop struggling as much as we do, make life a little bit easier.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This has been wonderful. I love this. I could talk about it all day.
All right. We'll talk again soon. How about we do that? Yeah?
We do, definitely.
Right.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.